Well, welcome everyone to another online travel education from Toad Learning Camp. Um, Today we are going to talk about Walt Disney World and what it's like um, now that we're kind of in the middle of a pandemic. Um, and things are different now, but as you will find out, the magic is still there. So now we're going to have a Q&A with Amy Olmsted, who is one of our clients who was at opening day, I believe, or shortly after of the Magic Kingdom and spent some time there and wanted to share her experience with us. Thanks, Amy, for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Um, let's start from the beginning. I'm assuming you flew down to Orlando. Can you tell me about the flight experience?
Yeah, it was different. And you're going to hear that from me a lot about this whole trip. It just wasn't what I'm used to expecting. So when I go to Columbus Airport, I walk in and I always am one of those people that has like terrorist on my forehead because TSA stops me every time. And I've been taken to the back room and patted down. I mean, the whole thing. I have done it all. And this time I just went right through, I was the only person in the security line. I walked right through. I walked to my gate. There were 3 gates that had people in them. So it was just very strange. I flew earlier in April when I went down to see family, and it was worse then. They only opened TSA when they had flights. So they'd open it from like 8 to 10 in the morning and then close it, and then reopen it from like 1 to 3 and then close it. So this time everything was open from that perspective, which was nice. There were more folks there. I flew Southwest, and they have kind of a cattle call. So you have a number, and then they kind of load you by your number. So instead of having you line up, they just called like rows 1 through 10, rows 10 through 20, and you just walked up from your seat. The airport was very clean. They had people walking around cleaning all over the place. Everybody had a mask on, and you had to wear a mask the whole time, or they stopped you. They had every other seat in the seating sections marked off so that people couldn't sit next to you. You had to sit every other seat there, so you had some space. And the thing that caught me off guard that I didn't think about was all the food places are closed. So the poor woman who was traveling from California to Florida and had been traveling for 18 hours had no food because she was very limited. So we could get vending machine food or the little store with the books and like the bags of chips, that place. But like Starbucks was closed, the pizza place was closed, all of that. So I would just advise it's opening, I would say, because by the time I flew back, there were places I could choose from. But just be aware that if you're going to have a long flight, you may want to take some snacks.
Okay. Now we've heard different things about flights, whether or not they're providing any beverage service or snack service and different levels of service with regard to that. What did you experience?
We on Southwest, they did have drinks and snacks. They just had glasses of ice water on a tray, and they'd walk and ask whether you wanted a glass of ice water. And then they had snack mix in a prepackaged bag that they passed out. But that's all that they had, and there were no other choices.
So the person flying from California at least got something.
Yes, they did, and they were very pleased. And they did ask you to take off your mask while you were actively eating and drinking, but then to put it back on.
Okay. And you didn't go into Orlando, so you didn't have experience with Magical Express. But you said that you talked to some people about their experience.
Yeah, we were at the pool one night and got chatty with the folks around us, and they had flown in using Magical Express, and they said that they were disappointed because the luggage handling is what they liked it for, not having to drag their bag around. But they said it really wasn't a big deal. It was just like when you get home from from a flight, you just go down to baggage claim, grab your bag, go out to the bus. They didn't feel like they had to wait any longer than they usually did for the bus. But they thought that as things get busier, that could be a problem spot because they only allow like 6 families on the bus, and then everybody else has to wait. So depending on how many people are traveling at the same time as you are, that could be a long wait. But they did have options for Uber and for Lyft and for those kinds of things too.
Okay. And I do understand that the luggage thing is a temporary thing. So that is coming back if it hasn't already. I think it might be back now, but it was temporarily stopped. So hopefully that's not an issue anymore. So then you arrived at the resort. Um, did you do online check-in or did you have to go to guest services?
Yes to both. So I did online check-in before I left home because I'm a good Disney person, and they said do online check-in, so I did. But about a week, not even a week, about 5 days before I left on my trip, my credit card got hacked. So they overnighted me a new credit card, and I added it to my Disney account, but I couldn't get, and you know how Disney's IT is, right? All of you go to Disney, you know how that works. Terrible. I could never get it to validate that it took the new card. So when I got to Disney, I went to the front desk to ask them just to validate that my card was actually on the account correctly. And while we were doing that, they actually checked me into my room, and that was at about 10 after 7 in the morning, and I was checked in, and I had a room.
Wow. Um, so you didn't need to have belt services hold your luggage, but were they doing that for other?
We didn't need to use it, but other people were, and it looked normal. I mean, they had gloves and masks on, but they were taking the bags and putting them in the side room like usual. And they were telling people to come back to the place to ask for it or to call.
Okay. Did you have housekeeping, or was housekeeping different during your stay?
Before I left, when I did my online check-in, I had the option of passing up on housekeeping for $20 a night. But housekeeping was only coming every other night. So I was only going to have basically one night, and $20 wasn't worth it. So I kept it. Once I got there, everything in the room was kind of like prepackaged, for lack of a better term. The TV clicker was in a bag that said cleaned. We had the individual toiletries rather than the pumps on the wall. So everything was kind of as sterile as they could make it. The bag in the cupboard that had the extra blanket and extra pillow in it had a zip tie with it closed so that they would know if you got stuff out of it. Things like that.
Okay. Um, okay. And with the masks, I know this is a big deal with a lot of people. Um, are you required to wear them everywhere that you go?
Yes, everywhere. So when I first got there on day 1, the rule was unless you are eating and drinking or in the pool, you had to have a mask on. Well, on day 2, I had just gotten one of those wonderful slushies in France and was walking around and drinking it with my mask off. As I was walking and they stopped me, I did not realize that the rules had changed, and that as of that day, you had to be sitting down to have your mask off. You weren't allowed to actually walk around and eat and drink anymore. Apparently, folks were carrying stuff just to kind of get by without having a mask on. So that had changed. A couple cast members in bright yellow outfits, because they were kind of the smile squad, walked around and they had masks on, and then they had on a stick, they had little smiles that they put in front of them, and they stopped over and said, look, this rule just changed today. Now we have to wear a mask when you're walking. They were very nice. They showed me where I could go and sit down if I wanted to sit down and drink my drink, or they showed me where I could go to a trash can if I was done and I wanted to pitch it. I said, this is a slushie from France, right? We don't throw these things away.
No. Okay.
And they were adamant. I mean, they would stop you. They were very, very kind. We saw people taking selfies, so they pull their mask down to get the selfie, and the cast members came over and said, no, you have to keep your mask on. Photo pass people wouldn't take photos with your mask off. You had to keep the mask on. And every ride that had a photo thing in it, like Splash Mountain or Haunted Mansion, there were signs that if you took your mask off for the photo, they wouldn't give you the photo. They would pull it, and they actively pulled them. So they were pretty serious about masks.
I think that's because they don't want anyone to see the pictures and social media and assume that it is okay and you can get away with taking it off here and there. So I can understand why they don't want you to take pictures like that. Do they have a lot of hand sanitizer around, and were you required to use it?
She's asking that question because I wrote up an email to Deb and I said, oh my God, there's hand sanitizer everywhere. You can bathe in it. I mean, there's just tons. It was.
I think the words were, let me find exactly what you said. I think it was like within 10 miles of the park, the hand sanitizer would completely cover every person.
There's a lot of hand sanitizer. Every door of the hotel, every park entrance, stores, before you got on a ride, after you got off a ride, everywhere. Some places had cast members kind of standing next to it, kind of like on the cruise lines where they suggest that you do this hand sanitizer, but most places didn't have anything. And I will warn you, it's that really heavy, slimy hand sanitizer. I recommend bringing the foaming stuff because it's awful, but it's everywhere.
Did you have any problem with other guests not respecting your space?
Yeah, that's something else that I told Deb. I was really shocked. Everybody was really trying to follow the rules. They weren't harassing cast members. They weren't trying. Anybody who got close to me was kind of like I was. Oh, sorry, because you forget, right? Because you're in Disney and you're not paying attention, and you get close to somebody, and then you realize it, and you kind of jump back. So I saw a lot of that with folks just getting used to taking that space, but no one trying to be difficult, no one trying to break the rules. It's like they all knew coming in these are the rules, and Disney did a really good job of making it very clear.
We've heard about the comfort stations where you can go and cool off and remove your masks. Did you experience this?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few of them. I was surprised. They've taken out a lot of the tables, so the tables are further apart. So they're probably 10 or 12 feet apart instead of the regular 6. And it's just a place you can go and sit. You can sit and take something to drink. You could just take off your mask. I saw a lot of parents that had kids, so maybe the kids were getting tired of it. So they kind of let them go and just sit and like decompress. And they were real careful to monitor how many people came in and out of there. So there was a line if there were too many people and you had to wait for someone to leave, then they clean the table and then you would come in.
Do they have like a time limit of how long you could be there or anything like that?
No, but I didn't notice in all the places that I saw, they had the stickers on the ground for the line to wait to get in, but I never saw a line.
Okay. Did you notice a lot of cleaning going on everywhere?
Everywhere they were cleaning. It's like there were cast members, all they did is they had a thing in their hand and they were cleaning. In the mornings when you walked in the parks, all the custodial crew was there waving their mops and their brooms to say hi, and very, very clean. It's probably the cleanest that I've seen it.
Um, you told Deb how your experience was with cleaning on the rides. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was kind of like a cartoon. So we would ride the rides and then they'd stop it all. And this group of cast members, they would bring the car up and this group of cast members like descended on this car and they sprayed it down and wiped it. Then they jumped off and the car went on and then the next one came. So they'd stop and they'd spray down all the cars, run it through once and then start loading again. But it was just funny to watch.
Did this impact like the weights much?
Yeah, it would probably add 10 or 20 minutes depending on how many cycles. I mean, they were going really quickly trying to not take a lot of time, but just the amount of cars. So like Splash Mountain took a long time and the line just stopped. So you were probably 10 minutes of just standing there, which was fine because we were all in the shade and we're chatty and it was good. But on a hot day in a worse line, that could be bad.
How often were they doing this cleaning?
I only got stopped once in most rides. We waited 40 minutes for Splash Mountain because it's going away, so the whole world was there. And we waited an hour for the new Mickey Minnie Railroad because we rode that first. So all the people who couldn't get on Star Wars rode it with us. And I got stopped there. And they only stopped once, and I would say it maybe added 8 to 10 minutes to my wait. So
Okay.
it wasn't noticeable.
Um, so how did you feel about your safety at Disney in light of the pandemic? I mean, did you feel like Disney itself cared and that extended onto the cast members, or were they kind of tired of doing all this cleaning and the extra wearing of masks and all that?
The sense that I got from the cast members were they were really glad to be there. I was worried that they would have been forced to come back and that they were not going to want to be there and that was going to show. But people were really glad to be back to work. The biggest problems I heard from cast members was they had a very hard time in how do I project a smile when I have a mask over my face? How do I keep the fun when it's hard to communicate that way, when I have to stand 6 feet back? But they were all very glad to be there, at least all the ones that I spoke to. They felt like Disney was responsive to them. So that change where you weren't allowed to walk around and eat and drink, the union had actually gone to Disney after complaints from the cast, and Disney changed it the next day. So they're responsive to what they're hearing from their cast, which made me feel good. So if the cast came in and they saw stuff going on that wasn't right, I feel pretty good that Disney would respond to that. I mean, Disney doesn't want to be a hotspot, right? It's bad for them and nobody wants to be sick. And I think they're really going above and beyond to try to be careful. When I got home, I got a survey. Actually, I got a survey while I was there. After I checked in, I got a survey about halfway through after I went to a park. And then I got a survey when I got home. And in all of them, they said, what else could we do? And I sat and really thought about it, trying to provide some kind of feedback. I couldn't think of anything. I mean, they've really made an effort. And even the cast member I was talking to at the pool, she's like, you know what? I feel safer coming to work than I do going groceries to the grocery store.
Wow.
He's like, you know, they're really trying here.
And did that extend to you as well? Did you feel safe?
Very much so. And I hate masks. I just hate wearing them. When that stuff hits my face when I breathe in, it just freaks me out. So it was a struggle for me, but I follow the rules. And even there, it was like, it all was fine. There were plenty of places to cool off. There were plenty of friendly folks to chat with. I could go to the pool. I could go sit somewhere. So I felt like I had lots of options. I didn't feel stuck.
That's good. Let's talk a little bit about the transportation between the parks and the resorts. Did you use any of those services?
We used the monorail. We were at the Contemporary, and I flew into Tampa because my daughter lives there, and she and I drove over together in her car. So we had her car to get to the parks, but we did use the monorail both to go to Magic Kingdom one day just because we like the monorail, and once we went around to the hotels. So we stopped over at the Polynesian, did some shopping, had a drink, stopped at the Grand Floridian. And on the monorail, every family gets their own car, their own little section of the car. And they have like cloth dividers that come down between, because in the monorail, there's like 2 cars per section or 2 sections per car. And they had like a cloth thing that came down. And that was the only complaint. We had one family, my daughter and I were cracking up. They were all upset because this thing didn't connect to the bottom. There was probably maybe an inch between this top of the seat and the bottom of this cloth thing, this dowel. And they were all upset because that happened in the monorail, and they saw the same thing in the ride at Animal Kingdom, the safari ride. They had those things, and they were all upset that they weren't connected to the bottom. We laugh because you still have your mask on, you still have all the stuff you have to do. It's like, I don't know what you think they can do here. So that's probably the one complaint that I heard while I was there, and I didn't feel like it was very reasonable because we were more than six feet apart in that car.
Yeah. Did you feel that there was longer lines as a result waiting for monorails?
I do not think there were longer lines while I was there, but as soon as they have some more folks show up, it's going to be a nightmare. So I would highly recommend, if you're going to go to Disney in the next, I'd say, few months, rent a car. just to make it easy, because the buses are going to be crazy.
Were they still charging you for parking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And they charged me the full $25 for parking at the Contemporary, even though I was upgraded from Port Orleans. But I figured since they gave me a nice free upgrade, I couldn't say much about that. It was a bargain.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about when you arrived at the parks or at Disney Springs, what the procedure was for getting in?
So when you got there, when we went to Disney Springs, we parked in the garage, and they kind of funnel you into one place to go into the park. And I would say that like all of the floors had to come to like the second floor, I think it was, and you walk down through this pathway. And at the end, they had a group from Orlando. They're not Disney folks. They're a medical group from the city of Orlando that had the temperature gauges where they pointed at your head and pull the button. So you got to walk up and they kind of shoot you. But it just takes a minute. They didn't show us the results, but I didn't see anybody get pulled over. If they do pull you over, Tracy had mentioned that they kind of take you to a side area where there's fans and you can just kind of sit and cool down because it is hot. So some people might just overheat because of the walks. So they take you over, give you a few minutes to sit down and cool down, then they check you again. And then they'll let you in. When you go in, especially Disney Springs, they have a security guy standing there with a clicker counting how many folks are out there. And apparently they will shut down Disney Springs if it gets too full.
And you said that happened also at the stores too.
Yep, the stores. So we were at the Magic Kingdom one day and it started to rain. So everybody, of course, dives for cover in a store. Well, they weren't. If they hit a certain number in the store, then they wouldn't let them in. They actually said, you cannot come in. We are maxed out. So you were stuck in the rain. So second rule, take an umbrella.
And clicking out.
They have cast members at each door of the store, and when the store is, they have like an iPad, and there's a counter on it where all the doors for the store are connected. So if somebody comes in, they push the up arrow, and if somebody goes out, they push the down arrow, and it keeps track of all the doors for that store. So they know
Wow.
how many people are in it all the time, which was kind of cool.
So when you went to the rides, of course, with no fast passes, people are a little bit concerned that they're going to be waiting a lot longer for rides. Can you tell us how the experience was going into the rides?
When we went to go ride things, what I found was everybody was kind of in clumps. So if it was a new fancy awesome ride, then of course, yeah, you'll have a lot of folks there. So there were all kinds of people there at MGM the very beginning of the morning so they could try to get passes to the Star Wars rides. Well, of course, I missed that. So so we ended up going to the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, which we hadn't done yet. When we got there, all the people that hadn't gotten into Star Wars were there with us. So we had a very long line. I would say we were probably an hour in that particular line. Now, we didn't care because we had nowhere else to be. And we got off of that, and then we went and walked on Alien Saucers and walked on Midway, Toy Story Midway Mania. We walked on the rest of the rides. So it seemed like if you were trying to get on a big top ride, you may have to wait. But the rest of them, we didn't wait at all. I walked on Haunted Mansion, but I had a 40-minute wait at Splash Mountain. So
Did they use the fast pass queues or did they use the regular queues?
we did the regular queues. I didn't see fast pass queues being used for anything. And I think it was to allow that 6 feet of space between each of us, because they had stickers on the floor, and you get really used to just watching for the stickers. So you go to the next one, you don't even think about it. But I was laughing. We had never walked the queue for Flights of Passage, Animal Kingdom. We always had a fast pass. And this is the first time we actually walked the queue. It's beautiful. I mean, it was really pretty. And we walked right on that. We were 8 minutes from the time we entered the line to the time that we got on the motorcycle thing, and that was all walking time.
Wow.
So that was cool. I don't think that's ever happened.
Let's talk a little bit about dining. Some of our clients have expressed concern about the lines for dining since there's no dining plans, though you can still make dining reservations. What was your experience with this?
So what we found was I made one reservation for my birthday. We went and had dinner one night, and we didn't make any more. And I thought I was fine because I would check on my phone to see, oh, well, tomorrow, what do we want to do? Oh, maybe we'll make a reservation. Oh, there's tons of them. I won't bother. Well, then the next day, of course, when we wanted to go to dinner, there's nothing. I mean, nothing to pick from. So my advice would be, if you want to have a sit down meal, please make that plan. Make the reservation. Do it. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck with counter service, which isn't bad. Counter service is all done online. So you use your Disney app to order the food, and you pay for it on your app. And then you go and sit down, and they like buzz you. They like text you when your food is ready. And you go up with your thing, and they hand you a bag, and all your stuff is in it. Condiments and stuff are still set out, but they're pre-packaged. So instead of having like a catch a thing that you pump, they have packets. And you can take packets of that. But the drinks were actually blocked off, and they have a cast member filling drinks. So you could get a reusable mug, but each time you went, the cast member had to fill it for you, which wasn't a big deal, except in the morning when people are trying to get coffee and they're having to explain how many creams they want and sugars, and they haven't had any yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's easy, but don't count on being able to walk in somewhere, because we couldn't, and there were just 2 of us.
Now, another thing that people are concerned about is the lack of character interaction, the close interaction, the lack of parades, and the lack of fireworks. What was your experience with that?
Well, I was really bummed about the fireworks, obviously. but I have to tell you, we're not character folks, so I wasn't really worried about not being able to touch them. But I saw more characters on this trip than I usually see. So you'd be walking down through the Magic Kingdom, and suddenly the music would get loud, and a single float car would come down through, and they'd have like Mickey and Minnie and Goofy on it. Or when I walked in, they had Tinkerbell on a float coming down through. So you still see them, and you can wave and get photos. You just can't touch them. At Epcot, they had Winnie the Pooh with a butterfly net running around in the flowers, and he'd dance and he'd wave to the kids, and so you could interact, just not closely. And they had a thing, Elsa and Anna did a horse-drawn carriage through World Showcase, so you could wave at them and see all of them. Animal Kingdom, that moat that they have where you take the bridge over to the Tree of Life, they have characters on boats going around down in that moat, and they had the drum players on the boat down in the moat playing music. So you still see them, probably more than you normally would. They had the Wicked Stepsisters on the balcony of the castle fighting arguing. So really fun stuff that it was creative. So I was kind of impressed with it because characters have never done much for me, but I actually stopped and watched because it was really fun.
And you mentioned when we first got on that they had fireworks on the TV each night too.
Yeah, they have the fireworks on the TV. Of course, they didn't start that till after I left, but each night at like at 8 and 10, I think they have Happily Ever After on the TV, so you can watch it. And it's actually kind of cool because I don't know about you, but I always get the guy who puts the kid on their shoulders right before it starts. Yeah, so I actually got to see all of the stuff that's on the castle. So it's actually a really good view.
So while there wasn't really like a set parade, there were little parade vignettes.
Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
Like probably, we were at the Magic Kingdom for maybe 4 hours, and I bet we saw 6 or 8 of those.
Wow.
All different, and some of them they had people dancing in the street, and some of them they had music just playing, and it was all different. So it was very fun.
Cool. Okay, so if you weren't a Disney fanatic and just going down for your very first trip ever, knowing all these changes and restrictions and how it actually worked, would you still plan to go, or would it depend on the time of year it was or anything like that?
If I had never been to Disney, I still feel like there's tons to do that a first timer would have no problem finding a lot of stuff. I offer that we went into it with expectations very low, not knowing what we were going to get. And I felt like because we kind of went in more laid back, we didn't have to be at the park right at rope drop. We didn't have to stay until the park closed. It was very laid back. So we stopped and had breakfast before we walked over, or we left and we went swimming for a while during the day when we don't usually do that. So it was a more relaxed trip. I actually came home and I wasn't like totally beat up because normally I'm like, go, go, go. And this was a different trip, but really nice, relaxing and fun. And I felt like I got to do all the things that I wanted to do.
Now, you go to Disney frequently, and given that and knowing everything that you went through, um, do you have plans to go back anytime soon?
Well, it's funny. The day we left, I had Deb on my email going, can we get a room for September? Because I'm going to be back down there, and then let's book this trip next summer. So I had two trips booked before I left. But yeah, I canceled a trip in September, and I almost canceled this one because I'm like, you know what? Why do I want to pay all this money to go, and I'm not going to have parades, and I'm not going to have fireworks, I'm not going to have all this stuff. I was mad I lost my free dining, all of these things. Why do I want to do that? And then I went, and I'm like, nope, we're just going to go, and I know it's going to suck, but it's Disney, so we have to go. And we got there, and we had so much fun. I mean, my daughter is still texting me probably twice a week saying, we had so much fun at Disney. It was so awesome. So I would say that the magic is still there. It's different than what you thought, but I wouldn't hesitate. Like I said, I booked two more trips while I was still there. So, and if I had known then what I know now, I probably would have kept my September trip.
Um, and anything else that you want to add?
I don't think so. Just for all of us that are really debating, I think the thing is you have to decide what's best for you. If I would have been taking my 7-year-old nephew, I probably would have looked at it differently than I was taking my 19-year-old daughter, because I knew with her and I, we didn't have to do anything. We could just kind of do whatever came next. So I think if you had a child or someone that had to do certain things, you'll have to really think about, can this trip meet those needs? But if you have any flexibility at all, if you're like me and you're there often, I feel like you can absolutely have an amazing trip without any effort at all. It's still Disney.
Wonderful. I think I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to unmute everyone. And if you guys have any questions of your own, we can do that, or you can type it in the group chat, either way.
Amy, was it better because there were less people?
I felt like it was perfect. There were enough folks there that it wasn't creepy, but there weren't so many that I felt like all I did was deal with crowds and wait in lines. I was afraid that it'd be like those old days where you're like in line forever and that's all that you do. And I didn't feel like that at all.
Were the pools crowded?
I'm sorry?
Were the pools, they had counts for the people in the pools, or how do the crowds at
The pools. They had separated all of the seats that were around the pools so that you weren't sitting next to someone. I think they were in groups of two, so 2 seats together and then like 6 feet and then 2 seats together. So they spaced that out around there. And then they had people counting when you came in, and they had lifeguards kind of moving you away from one another if you were in the pool too close. But very, very nicely, very easy, and nobody really got yelled at for it. They were all trying to stay clear.
Did you have tickets before you got there, or did you have to purchase tickets?
I have a pass, so we go all the time.
Okay.
And as far as that goes, you definitely want to have your tickets, because if you don't have your tickets, you're not able to get the park pass or the park reservation. And if you don't have a park reservation, I would not recommend just trying to go. They will not let you go in. They will have you go aside and make your reservation. And the more people are coming and the more people that have their reservations, you might actually get to a park and not be able to get in. So it's definitely recommended. In fact, when we book new reservations right now, there's a link for us to go and check immediately what parks are available before we book our clients, so that, you know, if you absolutely have to be at Hollywood Studios, and I think that's the only one that's been closed off at all due to capacity, and you say, I have to be at Hollywood Studios on this day and we're going to book your reservation and see it's not available, at least you have an opportunity to switch days if you want.
And I asked when we pulled into the parking place, and they scan your Magic Band and they ask you, do you have a reservation for this park today? And if you don't, then they tell you, you may want to turn around and go, you know, make a reservation first. But and I asked them, I said, have you had many people come through who didn't have them? And she said, yeah, we have had some. And they won't let you in now. And the other thing I found out, and I tried to kind of break the rules a little bit. So we went to Magic Kingdom during the day, and I said, hey, why don't we try to go to Epcot tonight? So we got out of Magic Kingdom. I tried to book a pass for Epcot, and that won't work. It says you already have a pass today, and it's at Magic Kingdom.
And they
So
are,
if you have an annual pass that expires, like Tracy, we have one that expires in November 30th, like 3 days before we're going. I don't know if I want to buy another annual pass. Am I just sort of in this limbo of can't do anything?
Weren't they adding another month, Tracy? I thought they were adding
they
another
were
month.
extending it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the extended date they gave us.
Oh, that's the extended
That's
date?
the extended date.
So we don't know what to do, if we
And they
should
added
buy
a-
tickets now or buy a pass or wait, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think
When I was there, Tracy, they said you could buy tickets and then apply them towards a pass.
Oh, you could?
oh
Yeah.
yeah, you
apply it
always
towards
can
a pass
do
like
that. So yeah, you could, if you know how many days after that you want to go, and then just make a decision if you want to get a pass instead. We could certainly set you up with tickets, and then if you decide you want the annual pass, just when you get there, you convert it.
But how will that work if you're a DVC member and you're using the DVC discounts? Because you're not using a normal Disney price.
They have the discounts at the park
Okay.
for DVC members. Yeah,
So
'cause I've
even-
gotten my annual pass for a DVC member at the park.
I'm not a DVC member. I gotta look into that. I keep saying that.
Deb doesn't want you to.
I think I've waited too long. I was like, I don't think so.
No.
You don't really, there's really not many benefits. No.
We're just trying to figure out if it's going to be worth it or not. Are we going to be able to go? You know, that's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this pass we haven't used that much now.
You know,
Yeah.
would it be worth maybe getting a refund for the pass you haven't used and just put that money towards the new one? I don't know what how that works. Tracy would know though.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're doing that?
I don't know if it's worth it though. I don't know how much you're getting back.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with the annual passes, because we don't sell the annual passes, so they don't ever tell us what the guidelines are on that.
Yeah, give them a call. I bet they'll work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess we'll do that.
They were being really flexible when I was there. They had
Yeah,
people who
'cause-
were like, look, I need this. And they're like, no problem.
Okay, so maybe if we can get it just through the beginning of December would be great. You know,
Because they extended the dates on your pass. And then I saw an announcement they were going to give you another month. So I'm wondering if you'll fall into that next month, because that happened after I got back from my trip. And I've only been back 2 weeks.
Okay, so we should
You
check
may
that.
still get some time.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It'd be perfect for your timing, yeah.
Yeah.
Disney Magic, see?
Yeah, let's hope.
Are the trams in the parking lot still not running?
Still not running. And let me tell you how people are not happy about that. Now, the good news is there aren't many people there parking. So when we park like at Animal Kingdom, that's the closest I've ever been to the front of the park. And I'm walking, because we're like driving and driving. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be walking the rest of my life. And then we parked, and you're on the side somehow. We're like, we're right here. We were like 4 rows back from where the Uber drops off there, which is right at the front of the park. It was amazing. Disney Magic, see?
Yeah.
That's what my daughter kept saying. She's like, Mom, how's all this stuff just work out? I'm like, Disney Magic. It's all okay.
No, I did think of one other thing. You mentioned that you went to other hotels.
Yeah.
Some of the rumors were that if you didn't have a reservation for either for a hotel stay or a dining reservation, you couldn't go to other hotels.
Yeah, we had heard that, and then we found out that they had Dole Whips with rum at the Polynesian. So we said, well, let's give this a try. So we got on the monorail. We went over to the Polynesian. We had no problem at all. We got off and did some shopping. We went down to the boutique shop downstairs, shop there.
Wow.
Went out and got our Dole Whip. It was a really nice day.
Where are the Dole Whips? At the bar?
No, actually, if you go out towards the pool, it's a little thing on the side called, what's it called? It's called Pineapple Terrace, Pineapple Promenade, Pineapple something. Right.
I learned something new.
Pineapple something, and it's right outside the door as you walk to the pool. It's off to the left. I've never noticed it there, so I wonder if it's new. But you
Okay.
can get Dole Whips there, and they do Dole Whips with a shot of Malibu, and it's a very nice afternoon.
It
Sounds
has
great.
been there for a couple of years at least.
Okay. I just never noticed it, but yeah, it's a nice
Yeah.
Louise, we're going.
Hey, Amy, did you find any of the attractions closed? Was everything open?
I was trying to think. I thought they said that some of the things were closed. Like when I was there, the movie they have at China was closed. And the movie that they had at Canada was closed. So some of those kinds of things where you kind of pack together, but they opened shortly after we left.
Like Dole Whips.
So they must have found a better way to do that. But I didn't notice anything closed, but I'll be honest, I wasn't trying to get into things like the Hall of Presidents or any of those kinds of things. So maybe there. But the PhilharMagic was still going. All of that stuff was still going. Now things are a little bit changed. So the Haunted Mansion, they don't have the stretching room. Well, they have it, but it's open and you just kind of wander through, which as a Haunted Mansion aficionado broke my heart. But you know, they still have all of that, and it's still dark and it's still pretty. It's just you go right onto the ride.
Oh, still Louise.
And it the Flights of Passage where they have that like 25-minute pre-thing where you stand in the room and get desanitized and all that stuff. That isn't there. They have a real short clip where they just say this is what it's going to look like when you go in the next room. But they don't close the doors and do that whole thing, which I was glad for because that takes forever.
We just found our tickets are extended, so we got that. It's a magical moment.
See, Disney Magic, I told you.
Yeah, we're good till 12:27, so
There you
that
go.
covers our time.
You could fit 2 trips in that time. I mean, come on.
So now we can reserve our parks. Perfect.
What's going on with the construction at Epcot?
Oh, it's a hot mess. It is so, it is a hot mess. It is so torn up and a mess, and you have to walk all the way around it. So when you're leaving the park and you're really tired and it's hot, it's probably about 25 miles to get out of the park. When you're coming in, it's only about 100 yards because it isn't so bad. Leaving, it was a very long walk. But yeah, the whole center is closed down, so you have to walk around the whole thing. So the main fountain is gone, and the Starbucks there is gone, and the Coke place is gone. Refreshment place, I don't remember what it's called, refreshment where you got the taste of the different Cokes, that's all closed down. Mouse Gears, the big store, is closed down. The pin place is gone. The whole area is under construction, so it's a mess. But once you get past that, everything's normal. They still had the friendship boats running, the friendship boat running from over to Morocco and back. That's still going. All the rides, like Mexico was doing their ride, Soaring, Test Track. Well, Test Track, it was down, but imagine that. It's down all the time. I think that has nothing to do with COVID. But yeah, the rest of it was all good. Just that front part is a mess, but I hope it's going to be awesome. Seems like they have some really great plans there, and they were actively working on it. So that was nice to see that they're trying to make progress instead of it just sitting there blocked off. They're not doing pin trading. I'm a pin trader, you know, one of those ones that has a couple pins in a pocket. They're not doing it with the cast members, but every hotel and a lot of the stores have a board. And you basically drop the pin you want to trade in a box, and then they go sanitize it, and then they'll come put it on the board. And you can, and they give you the pin off the board you want.
Okay.
Sorry, just a side note for those of us who like pins. Here we go. See, Todd.
Any other questions?
More questions?
I think it was very informative.
Yeah, it
Yes.
sounds pretty good. Better than I thought.
I was pleasantly surprised. Like I said, I went in not expecting much, and I was even to the point where I'm like, maybe I need a break from Disney, take a year or two off, you know, let them get their act together. And then, like I said, I'm on the phone with Deb, book me again.
2 years is a long time.
2 years is a long time, yeah.
That's
And then
too
I'm like,
long.
I'm like, well, let's see, it's July, so I can be back here in September, and I can be back here in November, and so it's
Louise,
let me
Louise and
know.
I are going for those Dole Whips with the rum shot. Sounds good.
my daughter
Hi,
looked at me.
Louise. I didn't even see you.
She's like, have they always had this? I'm like, yeah. She's like, where has this been all of my life?
I never knew that.
Your
So,
life? I mean, you're a kid.
sounds good.
So for anything, it's got blues. At least
Anything.
once.
Pardon?
Okay. I'm going to quick go back to my presentation here and share a couple more things. With all the changes at Disney World, you need to have a master's degree to follow or just use a qualified travel professional. Your Travel on a Dream advisor is ready to help you navigate through all the changes. So we are offering an enhanced services package. Your advisor will help you with your booking your reservation, making necessary recommendations. In addition, your agent will help set up your My Disney Experience account, including any appropriate linking, scheduling, dining, park visits, and activities. Your agent will answer all questions and either help you set this all up on your own or at your request handle it all for you and review all your plans. The cost for this new service is $200 per reservation. To take advantage of this service and have your agent manage your My Disney Experience account, you'll be required to give your login information to your agent. You will also have to accept Disney's terms and conditions because we can't do that for you. If you're comfortable handling everything on your own, we still offer a no-cost option to you. Your agent will book your trip and offer general information and answer questions. You can switch to the enhanced plan anytime with the payment of the fee. I also wanted to remind you that we have future presentations every Wednesday at 7 p.m.
He already sent it once.
And next week we're going to do Virgin Voyages, and Melissa's going to be heading that up for us. The following week we're going to go through Tahiti. And the next week we're going to have a presenter from Rocky Mountaineer talking about Rocky Mountaineer and taking the train through the mountains and Banff and Lake Louise. Still working on September 2nd and September 9th, but then September 16th, we're going to do Royal Caribbean cruises and try to do a little different twist on that one. If you have any ideas about what you would like to hear, just email info@travelonadream.com or post on our Facebook wall, and we can come up with something to talk about with you guys. And as always, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the time that you're spending to learn more about these different destinations and travel options. And thanks, Amy, for being here and giving us all this information today. We appreciate it.
And behaving.